Welcome to the video, guys. As most of you likely see, Nigel Farage did some great investigative work with the help of the general public in exposing the situation currently taking place in a lot of hotels around this country that sees them full up and booked out for months despite being closed to the general public. As he said, this all stems from a Home Office contract offered out to Serco and Mears worth £4 billion, but of course these contracts never stay at the numbers quoted. They have clauses that will allow more money to be spent for certain events or sudden influxes in the case of these contracts, which we are seeing as we speak, all at our expense of course. Now I will point out this £4 billion contract predates the current government, so are not directly on Priti Patel and Boris Johnson's head. But new ones have been awarded for similar things, just for less money, so they are not completely innocent, and either way, the government is clearly complicit, especially considering what we are seeing the border fast do every single day now with their taxpayer-funded taxi service across the channel that is helping Mears and Serco fill up these hotels. I checked in London and rooms are still available here, suggesting the powers that be might not want these criminals in London, but don't mind dumping them on the poor bastards around the country, which is a proper shitweasel move if you ask me. Of course, like Nigel Farage said in his video, the mainstream media are avoiding this like the bubonic plague because they know the local residents won't support this, especially considering what happened in Glasgow not that long ago involving hotels and these new illegal immigrants or new Labour voters, whichever name you prefer. Well, as you can see here in this Reuters article from 2019 that we will skim over, the contract allowed for 20,000 of these criminals being put up with bed and board at our expense. So, as Nigel said yesterday, the numbers are already way past the contracted terms, meaning £4 billion is a pipe dream. Try doubling that and we might be closer to the actual costs already, I would bet. Now, on top of this shit show, we will also look at an article from a local Bromsgrove newspaper who tries their best to make out like locals support this move, when I bet 99% did not know about it and likely still don't. The Reuters article headlines, Serco Mears wins £2.9 billion refugee housing contracts in Britain. Let me tell you, they are not refugees. They have come through multiple safe countries to get here. They floated over on a fucking boat from France. At the end of the day, they cannot be refugees. Multiple safe countries suggest they are not refugees. They are economic migrants and criminals at that. Serco and Mears have won contracts totaling £2.9 billion from the British government to provide accommodation and support for asylum seekers. They mean criminals lifting shares in both outsourcing firms. And when they say they got £2.9 billion from the British government, what they actually mean is they got £2.9 billion from the British taxpayer. Valued at £1.9 billion for Serco and £1 billion for Mears, the 10-year contracts were awarded by Britain's Home Office Visa and Immigration Department under the Asylum Accommodation and Support Services contract. We don't care about the shares in these companies, they can go fuck themselves. The British government is awarding contracts worth a total of £4 billion to house criminal economic migrants, the sources said. But last year's collapse of Carillion has dampened appetite for riskier projects. Fuck your appetite for riskier projects, these projects should never be happening. Serco bid for parts of the AASC contract despite having hundreds of millions of pounds in losses in 2016 from its predecessor when refugee arrivals and costs outstripped budgets baked into fixed contract terms. The hope is that the risk rewards on this contract are much more attractive. The structure of the new contract is very different and does not have volume risk and the same level of penalties, Liberium's analysts said. So there it is, like I said, they're going to be able to make a fuck ton more money from it this time rather than losing money like they did before. Theresa May and a bunch of treacherous fuck pigs have obviously sold us out and allowed these companies to make an absolute fortune given what is happening now, as I said. Every day we are hearing that record numbers are arriving in Dover from across the channel. You can guarantee that record amounts of money are going out to Mears and Serco. So £4 billion, as I said, is a complete and utter pipe dream. Try 8 or 10 billion already, I would bet. And here obviously we have Serco's commitment to helping these fucking people who deserve no help. What a load of bollocks this is. We don't need to go through any of that. And like I said earlier in the video, Serco signs new contract to manage Gatwick immigration removal centres valued at 200 million. This was the 20th of February 2020, so this shit show here is on the government. But this is the article we definitely really need to take a look at. It's from the Bromsgrove Standard. Divided opinions as Nigel Farage visits Bromsgrove Bromgrove to make video about asylum seekers. No, they are criminal migrants. Brexit Party leader Nigel Farage was in town yesterday to make a video about asylum seekers currently being housed in Bromsgrove Hotel and Spa and other similar venues. In the 10-minute film on his YouTube channel and shared to his social media accounts, Mr. Farage said he had been contacted by residents from Bromsgrove and other areas who were criticising the decision to use hotels to house migrants, which, let me tell you, will be 90% of the country as soon as they find out about it, which obviously they won't because the mainstream media will never report it. He claimed there were 48,000 asylum seekers in the country, and with contracts between the Home Office and large companies such as Serco, it would cost the taxpayer $46 billion over 10 years. Apparently, it was supposed to be $4 billion, but $46 billion might actually be correct. When you factor in we're getting record numbers every day, and the contracts like we just see allow for things to be changed up so the companies won't lose money, this number is just going to keep on skyrocketing. He was seen speaking to residents in Catshill and claimed local people had contacted him to say there were concerns about the asylum seekers walking around the streets in groups and women were afraid to go out. Also, in the film, his driver drove him around the hotel for a look around before he entered to ask if he could book a room. Then questioning if it was not open, why was it full of people, which is a perfectly valid question to ask. He questioned why those being housed should be kept in a 4-star hotel, fed, receive free medical treatment, and claimed even if their asylum claims were turned down, they would still remain in the UK, which obviously is 100% correct. When your asylum claim fails, then you can actually appeal it and get to stay here, and even if it actually fails the appeal, you can still be here, as we have seen with the grooming gang suspects that are still here, despite losing the British citizenship over 2 years ago. He concluded by calling for a proper debate on the issue and accused the media of not covering the issue, as I've said, which obviously they won't. His visit was slammed by the Bromsgrove Liberal Democrats, who accused him of whipping up hatred in the local community, adding they were proud of the amazing kindness local residents had shown to those seeking to be criminal economic migrants. Which that whole statement there really shouldn't surprise you from the Liberal Democrats. Lib Dem spokesman Sam Evans said, whilst we understand concerns about illegal immigration, it is unacceptable that Mr. Farage should travel to Bromsgrove to make a video criticising people temporarily housed here for safety reasons due to the pandemic. Actually, if you listen to the video, he wasn't criticising the criminals, he was criticising the government, Mears and everyone else for taking part in this shit show. If our government is sticking a big welcome sign on the cliffs of Dover, then you cannot blame these people for coming over it at the end of the day. The fault is on our government, the Board of Farce and the powers that be for letting it happen. These people are not illegal immigrants and are legitimately housed in our local area whilst awaiting a decision on their status. They are illegal fucking immigrants because they come over here illegally, you complete and utter cunt. That's why they're waiting for a decision on their status. Can you believe this snivelling shitweasel we have here, Sam Evans? Due to UK law, they are prohibited from working in the UK. Due to UK law, they should be fucking prohibited from being here. This article is really starting to piss me off now. Nigel's description of one of our hotels as completely taken over by migrants is inaccurate and unacceptable. Yes, I would agree with that. It is inaccurate and unacceptable. Nigel Farage should have said it has been completely taken over by a bunch of criminals with no right to be in this country. You want to move to this country from a different country, you go through the legitimate channels and actually get the right to stay here, and if you get told to fuck off, then that is what you do. You don't jump on a boat and try and sneak your way over here, or jump in the back of a lorry or a car, any other way that they tried to get here. No wonder the Lib Dems got absolutely fucking trounced at the last election with shit like this. Mr. Evans said among the examples were local runners donating sports equipment and other generous donations, even though many people were experiencing their own hardships and challenges. Yeah, you got your little woke losers to go and do it, no one cares about them, especially when you factor in how many MPs the Lib Dems actually have. And the rest of the article just goes on about a load of nonsense. I think we've covered enough of this story already. I am really fucking annoyed with the shit that's coming out of this reporter's mouth, and of course the fucking Liberal Democrats. I will say before I end this video though, well done to Nigel Farage for pointing this out. It is a hell of a lot worse than he actually thinks, in my opinion, especially if you look at the way the wording was in the article talking about these contracts. Like I said, 4 billion is a pipe dream. Try 40 odd billion by the end of it.
There is a pattern consistent throughout history of oppressed people turning on the oppressors. Slaves against their owners, the peasantry against the feudal barons, colonies, Mr. Verhofstadt, against their empires. And that is why Britain is leaving. And it doesn't matter which language you use, we are going, and we are glad to be going. We're off.